The suitcase lay open on the bed, half filled with clothes, and Daniel felt his chest tighten, as though every folded shirt carried away a piece of his heart. Sarah's hands moved carefully, avoiding his gaze, as if eye contact would break her resolve. Daniel said, "You don't have to go like this, not tonight." His words trembled, weak against the silence that pressed between them. Sarah said, "I've been gone for a long time, Daniel. You just never noticed." The clock ticked loudly, mocking his stillness while her presence slipped further away with every motion. He wanted to reach for her, to stop her, but his arms hung heavy, chained by pride and unspoken fears. The lamp cast a warm glow that only deepened the shadows of their distance. Daniel thought, "Love isn't supposed to end this way, silently." The room was filled with the smell of her perfume, haunting him with every inhale. Sarah closed the suitcase with a soft thud, and Daniel realized that sound was the end of their story. He whispered, "Please, don't make this forever." She looked at him with tired eyes, carrying both love and finality, and Daniel finally understood this was the night she would leave. The silence stretched as Daniel sank onto the chair by the window, staring at the faint glow of city lights. Sarah folded another shirt slowly, her movements steady, almost rehearsed. Daniel said, "I thought we could fix this." His voice cracked like glass. Sarah said, "We tried, Daniel. But sometimes love isn't enough." Her words cut him deeper than shouting ever could. The sound of cars passing outside contrasted with the suffocating stillness between them. Daniel clenched his fists, digging his nails into his palms, desperate to feel anything but the ache inside his chest. He whispered, "I can't imagine this house without you." Sarah paused, her back turned to him, eyes wet but refusing to let him see. Daniel thought of the nights they had laughed in this same room, the dreams they had shared, and how easily they were now being folded away with her clothes. The weight of finality pressed down, heavy as stone. The ticking clock filled the room, each second pulling Sarah further from Daniel's reach. He stood finally, his knees weak, and said, "You're still the only thing I want." Sarah's hands froze, and for a moment she seemed ready to collapse. She said, "Wanting me won't make me stay." Daniel's voice broke as he said, "Then what will?" Her silence was louder than any answer. His eyes darted to the suitcase, the final symbol of her decision. The night air seeped through the window, chilling his skin, but it was her absence that froze him inside. He stepped closer, but Sarah moved an inch back, subtle yet undeniable. Daniel felt the distance grow like an invisible wall between them, and he knew no plea could break it. His chest heaved with helplessness, while her steady calm only deepened the agony of her resolve. Daniel pressed his hand against his forehead, pacing as his breath quickened. He said, "I gave everything I had, Sarah. Doesn't that matter?" She looked at him softly, but her silence was answer enough. He stopped moving and stared, as though seeing her for the first time, realizing she was already gone in spirit. Sarah whispered finally, "Sometimes love dies quietly, even when we don't want it to." His heart clenched at the sound of her voice, fragile yet unwavering. The walls of the bedroom felt smaller, the air heavier. Daniel gripped the chair, as if it could anchor him against the flood of despair. Tears burned his eyes but refused to fall, as though pride guarded his pain even now. He wanted to scream, but all that escaped was a broken sigh. The suitcase now stood upright by the bed, ready to leave, its silence louder than words. Daniel sat again, his body slumped as if the weight of the room had crushed him. Sarah touched the handle softly, her fingers trembling before steadying. Daniel said, "If you walk out that door, nothing will ever be the same." His whisper cracked in the air. Sarah said, "It already isn't." He closed his eyes, hearing the finality in her voice. The distant hum of the city seemed cruel, as though life continued while his world collapsed. His throat tightened with the words he could never say, the apologies that came too late. He thought, maybe love doesn't die with anger, but with silence. And in that silence, Daniel realized he had already lost her, even before she stepped away. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, his head heavy in his hands, as the echo of Sarah's words lingered in the air like smoke. He thought of the first time they had met, the laughter that had once filled these walls. Sarah said, "I never wanted it to come to this." Her voice was softer now, carrying regret more than anger. Daniel lifted his gaze, searching her face for any sign that this was not final. He said, "Then why does it feel like you've been gone for years already?" She turned away, her shoulders trembling, though she fought to appear steady. He remembered how she once leaned into him for comfort, how her hand had always found his without hesitation. Now, the distance between them felt colder than any winter night. The ticking clock mocked him again, as if reminding him that he was running out of time. Daniel whispered, "I don't know who I am without you." Sarah's silence confirmed his worst fear. She didn't feel the same anymore. The rain tapped lightly against the window, filling the silence Sarah refused to break. Daniel stood slowly, his body tense, and said, "I thought love could survive anything." His voice was low but carried desperation. Sarah closed her eyes, whispering, "Love can't survive being invisible." Daniel felt the words cut deep, realizing how many times he had missed her silent cries for attention. He said, "I was blind, but I can see now, Sarah. Please let me make it right." She turned toward him, her eyes filled with sorrow but also exhaustion. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to believe, yet her silence spoke louder than her tears. The weight of unspoken years pressed down on them, making even breathing feel heavy. Daniel thought of all the nights he had taken her presence for granted, and now each memory turned into another nail in the coffin of what they once shared. Daniel's voice broke as he said, "Every dream I had had you in it. I don't know how to let go." His hands clenched at his sides, fighting the urge to fall to his knees. Sarah swallowed hard, whispering, "Dreams aren't enough, Daniel. I needed you here when it mattered." Her words cracked like lightning in the still night. He remembered the birthdays missed, the dinners cut short, the countless small moments where she had been left alone in their love. Daniel said, "I thought I was building something for us. But maybe I was just building walls between us." Her eyes flickered with recognition, but her silence stayed. The memory of her laughter haunted him, louder than the quiet of this room. Daniel thought, if love is a house, ours is already collapsing. And in that thought, his heart broke a little more. Sarah finally spoke, her voice fragile. "Do you remember the nights we planned our future? I used to believe every word you said." Daniel's heart clenched, memories rushing back of whispered promises in this same room. He said, "I believed them too, Sarah. I still do." His voice cracked, the words catching in his throat. She shook her head softly, her expression pained. Sarah said, "Belief isn't enough when actions don't follow." Her words hung in the air, heavy as stone. Daniel stepped closer, his hands shaking as if reaching for a lifeline. He whispered, "I can change. Tell me what to do." But the emptiness in her eyes told him it was too late. Her silence became a wall stronger than any words could break. He stood frozen, realizing that all his love could not rewrite the past mistakes that led them here. Daniel's chest tightened as he whispered, "I don't want to lose you, Sarah. Not like this." His voice carried every ounce of desperation he had left. She turned toward him, her eyes glistening, and said, "You already lost me, Daniel. This is just me leaving the house." Her words shattered him more than any scream could. He staggered back slightly, as though struck by an invisible force. His breath came shallow, chest rising and falling as panic gnawed at him. Sarah's shoulders slumped, showing the weight of her own sorrow, but her resolve did not break. Daniel thought of all the chances he had to fight for her before tonight, and now it was clear none of them would return. He whispered, "Then tell me how to say goodbye." Her silence gave him the answer. There was no way. Daniel stood by the window, rain tracing crooked paths down the glass, mirroring the chaos inside him. He whispered, "I don't know how to breathe without you." Sarah sat quietly, her suitcase still at her side, unmoved. Her silence weighed more than words, pressing like stone on his chest. He turned, eyes burning, and said, "You built my whole world, and now you're tearing it apart." Sarah replied softly, Daniel, I can't live in a world where I don't belong. The thunder rolled faintly outside, echoing the storm between them. Daniel clenched his fists, his voice breaking. You do belong here with me. Her tears slipped down, yet she shook her head, unable to agree. The room smelled of rain and perfume, a mixture of grief and memory. Daniel thought, this house was once alive with love, now it's a tomb of silence. His heart screamed for her, but his voice faltered, lost in despair. Daniel paced the small room, his footsteps heavy, rattling the fragile air. He said, you once told me I was your forever. His voice cracked as memories stabbed deeper. Sarah kept her gaze on the suitcase, unable to meet his eyes. She whispered, forever ended long before tonight. Daniel froze, his breath caught as if her words stole the air itself. He moved closer, trembling, and said, no, I can't let you go, not like this. Her hands gripped the suitcase tighter, her knuckles pale, but her eyes stayed distant. Daniel thought of promises made under the stars, laughter once echoing through these walls, all now fading. His voice grew raw. Do I mean nothing to you anymore? Sarah's silence said more than denial could. The storm outside howled, as if nature itself mourned. Daniel felt his knees weaken, realizing love can end not in fire, but in quiet surrender. Daniel's voice turned sharp, anger masking his grief. He said, so you just walk away, after everything we built? His chest heaved as if each word carried a storm. Sarah flinched but kept her calm, whispering, what we built crumbled a long time ago. He stepped closer, eyes wet, fists shaking. Don't pretend this is easy for you. She looked at him with sorrow, her lips trembling. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Daniel felt his rage collapse under her quiet honesty. The room grew suffocating, shadows stretching across the walls like silent witnesses. His heart thundered in his ears, louder than the rain outside. He thought, if this is love, why does it hurt more than death? He whispered, then fight for us. Sarah lowered her gaze, her silence closing the door he could not open. Daniel dropped into the chair, his body sagging with defeat. He said, I gave up everything for us. What more did you need? His words cracked, as though dragged from the depths of his chest. Sarah replied softly, I needed you, not sacrifices made in my name. Her voice was steady, yet it carried wounds that never healed. He looked at her in disbelief, struggling to process her truth. Daniel whispered, I thought providing was love. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, her hand brushing across the suitcase as if anchoring herself. She said, love isn't what you give, it's what you share. The silence after felt heavier than thunder. Daniel thought of all the nights he came home late, mistaking work for devotion. The realization pierced him. He hadn't lost her tonight, he'd been losing her for years. The storm outside calmed, but inside, Daniel's heart raged louder than ever. He whispered, I still love you more than anything. His voice cracked with final desperation. Sarah turned her head, her profile etched in sorrow, and said, love isn't the same when it feels like loneliness. Her words sank into him like blades. He pressed his palms together, his body trembling with helplessness. Daniel said, then what's left of me if you go? Sarah's eyes glistened as she whispered, you'll have to find out. He broke into silent sobs, the kind that shattered his pride. She looked at him once more, her gaze full of both regret and finality. Daniel thought, the cruelest part of love is knowing it's ending while your heart still beats for it. And in that moment, he realized her goodbye was already written in silence. Daniel's hands trembled as he pressed them against the window, his reflection staring back like a stranger. He whispered, tell me this is a nightmare, Sarah. Behind him, she sat on the bed, silent but resolute. Her stillness tore at him more than anger ever could. He turned, voice rising. How can you walk away without a fight? Sarah's lips quivered, but she whispered, I've been fighting alone for too long. The thunder outside echoed, as if the storm inside had found its voice. Daniel stepped toward her, chest heaving. Then let me fight now. Let me save this. She looked at him, eyes red from tears, and said, "You can't save something already gone." His knees weakened, his body trembling under the truth. He thought, I am losing her inch by inch, and she won't let me stop it. His heart collapsed into silence. Daniel's breath grew ragged as he whispered, "Every memory is here, Sarah. This room, these walls, they are filled with us." His voice cracked with desperation. Sarah lowered her gaze, fingers brushing the suitcase handle as if steadying herself. She said, "Memories can't hold me when I feel invisible." Daniel stumbled forward, eyes pleading, "I can see you now. I swear, I see you." The lamp flickered, shadows stretching across the room like ghosts of their past. Sarah closed her eyes, her shoulders trembling, and said, "You should have seen me when it mattered." His chest ached, the truth striking harder than any blow. He pressed his palms together, begging silently for her to stay. She turned away, her silence louder than thunder, and he knew he was running out of time. Daniel's voice rose with anguish. "Don't you remember when we promised forever?" His chest heaved, fists trembling at his sides. Sarah turned to face him, her eyes glistening, and said, "Forever doesn't survive neglect." The words shattered him, leaving silence in their wake. He staggered back, his body collapsing into the chair, breath shallow. He whispered, "I was blind, but I loved you with everything I had." Sarah's tears fell, but her resolve did not break. She said, "Love isn't enough when it comes wrapped in absence." His face twisted, grief overtaking every line. The rain slowed outside, but inside, the storm raged, stronger. He thought, every sacrifice I made feels worthless now, because she needed me, not the things I built. Truth broke him. He had already lost the fight. The clock ticked louder, mocking the silence between them. Daniel said, "I can't lose you, Sarah. I can't breathe without you." His voice cracked into pieces. Sarah's shoulders slumped, her tears falling silently onto the suitcase. She said, "You lost me long before tonight." The weight of her truth struck him like a hammer. He gripped the armrest of the chair so tightly, his knuckles turned white. He whispered, "I thought I was protecting us, building a life for us." Sarah lifted her gaze, her face weary, and said, "You were building a life without me in it." His heart sank, realizing she had been living like a ghost in his world. He thought, "I built walls and called them love, and she drowned inside them." The silence thickened, suffocating them both. Daniel stood again, his body shaking, voice hoarse. He said, "Tell me what I can do. Anything, just don't let this be the end." His eyes pleaded with every ounce of his being. Sarah looked at him, her face streaked with tears, and whispered, "There's nothing left to fix." Her words were soft but final, a blade through his chest. He staggered, clutching the edge of the dresser for balance. He whispered, "You were my only home." Sarah closed her eyes, her lips trembling, and said, "Then you'll have to build a new one." The sound of her voice broke him more than silence ever could. His breath hitched, his vision blurred with tears. He thought, this is what it feels like to die while still alive. The storm outside had passed, but inside, he was drowning. Daniel's voice shook as he said, "If love was broken, we could still mend it." His eyes searched Sarah's face for hope. She turned slowly, her gaze heavy, whispering, "It wasn't just love that broke." His stomach knotted, his chest tightening. He asked, "Then what was it?" Her silence lingered, unbearable, before she finally said, "I've been carrying this truth alone." His body froze, every muscle taut, waiting for the words that would undo him. Sarah's tears spilled, her voice trembling. "I haven't been yours in my heart for a long time." His heart pounded violently, the air too thick to breathe. He whispered, "What are you saying?" She turned away, unable to meet his eyes, and said, "There's someone else." The words struck like blades, shattering his very core. His breath broke, his body stumbling back. Daniel thought, "This is the death of everything I knew." Daniel staggered, gripping the dresser for support, his breath shallow. He whispered, You're saying you don't love me?" His voice cracked like glass. Sarah shook her head, tears falling. She said, "It's not about love. It's about loneliness." His chest caved in, as though her words hollowed him out. He shouted, "Loneliness? I gave you everything I had." His voice thundered through the room, trembling with grief. Sarah steadied herself, her lips trembling. "You gave me things, Daniel, but not yourself." His eyes blurred, anger and sorrow colliding. He whispered, "And this other person? Did they see you when I didn't?" Sarah's silence gave him the answer. His knees threatened to give way, his heart pounding so loudly it hurt. He thought, "I wasn't just losing her, I had already lost her to someone else long ago." Daniel's voice grew raw. "So I was blind while you gave your heart away?" His fists trembled, fury masking grief. Sarah whispered, "It wasn't meant to happen, Daniel. I just felt seen again." His body trembled violently, his heart torn. He said, "Seen? I saw you every day. I worked for us every damn day." Her face crumpled with guilt, but her voice stayed steady. "I needed you here, not just working for a future I couldn't reach." His breath hitched, and he slammed his fist against the dresser, the sound sharp. He thought, every late night at work, every sacrifice, she read as absence. His voice cracked. "You let me believe I was enough." Sarah whispered, "I wanted to believe it too." His eyes burned, his whole body shaking under the weight of betrayal and love colliding. Daniel's chest heaved as he whispered, "Who is it?" His eyes pierced through her silence, desperate for an answer. Sarah closed her eyes, her body trembling, and said, "It doesn't matter. They aren't the reason I'm leaving, you are." His face twisted, a cry caught in his throat. He shouted, "Then why betray me? Why not walk away before tearing me apart?" Her tears fell faster and she whispered, "Because I wanted to believe you'd notice me again." The words dug into his soul like knives. He backed into the chair, collapsing, his breath ragged. He said, "I would have noticed, Sarah, if you'd only told me." She shook her head, whispering, "I did, just not with words you wanted to hear." His heart sank as he realized every silence, every look, had been her plea. He thought, "I drowned in noise while she cried in silence." Daniel buried his face in his hands, his voice breaking. "You were my world, Sarah. Everything I did for you." His sobs shook him violently. Sarah stepped closer, her tears falling, and whispered, "I never wanted your world. I wanted you." His hands fell, his eyes red and swollen, whispering, "Then why couldn't I be enough?" She said softly, "Because you were everywhere but here." His body shook, the truth crushing him. He thought, all this time, I fought shadows, not realizing she was slipping away in the light. His breath came shallow, chest heaving under unbearable weight. She placed her hand on the suitcase, her final anchor. Daniel whispered, "So this is it. This is goodbye." Her silence confirmed what her heart had already decided. He knew their story had ended, not in rage, but in quiet devastation. Daniel's chest heaved as he shouted, "How can you destroy us so easily?" His voice echoed off the walls, shaking with grief and rage. Sarah flinched but stood her ground, whispering, "Do you think this is easy for me?" His fists tightened, his body trembling with fury. He said, "I gave you everything." She stepped closer, her eyes red. "You gave me absence, Daniel, and I drowned in it." His breath caught, words choking him. The storm outside had passed, but the storm within raged louder. Daniel's voice cracked, "So you found someone else to hold you while I was gone?" Her tears fell, but her silence answered louder than words. His knees nearly buckled, the betrayal cutting deeper with every second. He thought, "This is what death feels like when your heart still beats." Daniel's voice grew hoarse. "Every night I worked, it was for us. I was building a future." Sarah's hands shook as she shouted back, "I never wanted a future built on silence." Her tears fell freely, voice breaking. Daniel staggered, his heart splintering under her words. He whispered, "I thought sacrifice was love." Sarah's voice cracked. "Love is showing up, Daniel, not just surviving for tomorrow." He pressed his palm to his forehead, his whole body trembling. His voice grew small. "Then, what am I without you?" She closed her eyes, whispering, "Maybe you'll finally find out." His breath hitched, chest caving under the weight of her truth. He thought, "I was blind, and now she's gone even while she stands before me." Daniel's body shook as he whispered, "If there's nothing left, why are you still here?" His voice cracked, fragile. Sarah's eyes welled, and she whispered, "Because part of me still loves you, but not enough to stay." His heart shattered at her confession, the cruelest truth yet. He staggered closer, whispering, "Then let that part be enough." She shook her head, tears dripping onto her blouse. She said, "Love shouldn't feel like drowning." His hands trembled, reaching out but stopping midair. He thought, if her heart still beats for me even a little, why can't it save us? Sarah turned away, her silence final. His knees threatened to give out, his chest burning as if fire consumed him from within. Daniel dropped to his knees, his voice a broken whisper, "Please don't leave me. I'll do anything." His tears fell freely now, his pride shattered. Sarah's face crumpled, her own tears unstoppable. She whispered, "Daniel, it's too late." His hands pressed against her knees as if anchoring himself. He said, "Don't make me live in a world without you." She gently placed her hands over his, but shook her head. Her voice quivered, "I loved you, but I lost myself in that love." His sobs shook him violently, the sound raw and desperate. He thought, if this is the end, I will never survive it. Her silence, filled with sorrow, answered what her heart had already chosen. Daniel's sobs quieted into broken whispers. He said, "You're my home, Sarah. If you go, I'm nothing." His eyes locked onto hers, pleading for mercy. Sarah's lips trembled as she whispered, "Home isn't where you live, it's where you're loved. And I don't feel loved anymore." His body shook, his breath shallow, as if the room itself was collapsing on him. He thought, "This is the moment I lose her forever." He whispered again, "Don't do this." She touched his face gently, her tear-streaked cheeks glowing in the dim light, and whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel." His heart screamed silently as her hand lingered for a moment before pulling away. He felt the universe close in, empty and cruel. The room was still, but Daniel's heart raced with the sound of goodbye echoing in his head. He whispered, "I don't know how to let you go." Sarah stood with the suitcase handle in her grasp, her face pale but steady. She said softly, "You don't let go, Daniel. You just learn to live with the emptiness." His chest tightened, the words striking deeper than any blade. He stepped toward her, but she held her ground, eyes glistening with sorrow. He said, "Every part of me is built around you." She turned her face away, whispering, "Then you'll have to rebuild." His breath broke, tears burning his eyes, and he thought, "She is no longer mine, only a shadow I'll carry forever." Sarah lifted the suitcase, the sound of its wheels against the floor louder than thunder to Daniel's ears. He whispered, "This house will be nothing but ruins without you." She paused at the door, her back still to him. She whispered, "It already is." His knees wavered, his hands limp at his sides. His voice cracked, "Sarah, please. Don't let silence be the last thing between us." Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't turn. She whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel." His chest collapsed, his breath shallow and uneven. He thought, her goodbye is the only word that will haunt me until the end. The door creaked open, the light from the hallway spilling into the dark room. For Daniel, it felt like the world closing in. Daniel sank into the chair, the sound of the closing door like a coffin ceiling. His tears blurred the room. Every shadow, a memory of her presence. He whispered into the silence, "I don't know how to exist without you." The air was heavy with her perfume, clinging to every breath he took. He buried his face in his palms, sobs shaking his body. He thought, this room was once alive, now it is nothing but a grave. His chest rose and fell violently, each breath harder to take. The stillness mocked him, the silence roaring louder than his cries. He whispered again, broken, come back. But the silence answered, final and cruel. Daniel lifted his head slowly, his eyes swollen, his breath ragged. The window reflected the faint dawn, a reminder that life outside continued mercilessly. He whispered, how can the world move on when mine just ended? His chest ached, his body heavy with sorrow. He stared at the empty bed, the suitcase's absence screaming louder than its presence had. His hands reached for the blanket where Sarah once slept, clutching it tightly to his chest. He whispered, I would have done it all differently. I would have chosen you every time. Tears rolled down his cheeks, wetting the fabric he held. He thought, I will never forgive myself for losing her in silence. Daniel sat by the window, the morning light painting his hollow face. His voice was barely a whisper. I would do it all again, Sarah. Even if it ended here, I would. His words vanished into the silence, but his heart carried them like scars. He stared at the city waking outside, its indifference a cruel reminder that life moved forward without him. His hands trembled as he pressed them together, as if in prayer. Tears streamed silently, falling onto the floor like shattered pieces of love. He thought, love didn't end with her leaving. It ended with my failure to see her when she was still mine. The camera lingered on his broken face, the silence heavy, unrelenting, eternal. The story ended not with hope, but with the unbearable weight of goodbye.